Good morning, family. This morning we are starting the incredible day at my former high school. This is Kanyawanga High School in Rongo in Western Kenya. This is where I was a student for 4 years, almost 30 years ago. This is a brand new building. This is a new current principal right in front of the camera. And then on to my right, you'll see him. He's going to walk with me. He's one of the teachers who also was a former student. And I'm here to give you a full tour of the high school I went to. So come with me, join me as we go through this beautiful place that I call my former school. I want to talk with you about two examples of Kenyans who have experienced significant medical emergencies that have been life changing. And I'm going to use those examples to walk you through how these things typically evolve for immigrants that live in the US, some of the things that get us in trouble for those of us who are still out here, and things you might need to think about as a person who is not ready to return to Africa yet. So, friends, welcome to Kanyawanga. This is in Western Kenya. I actually came down here to just come and see what's going on, just so I can understand some of the needs there are. And honestly speaking, what I found is that the needs are so intense, I don't even know where to start. So this gentleman right here in front of the camera is a good friend of mine. We both went to high school here, and then we ended up in the same university, and now he's back teaching here as a teacher. And so he's giving me a tour. We're walking around, catching up, talking about how things were back in the days when we were students here. So right here we're walking. This was supposed to be 11th grade, which in Kenya is Form 3. And at the corner right there, that's where we had our class. So this was my class right there. We're passing Form 3C and then heading towards Form 4C at the corner. And that's where the classes where we went. So this class right here is the place we ended up finishing high school. Funnily enough, whenever it rained, it would actually flood. And honestly speaking, I have mixed experiences or mixed memories when it comes to this high school. I had some very good experiences as a student here, but the truth is, high school was really hard. And you'll see it throughout the video as we walk around. The facilities and the things were just not what they should have been. In fact, we didn't even have running water. We would have to go to the river almost, I believe, like five kilometers away. And honestly, high school was really tough. Now, that corner on the left, that was from 2C. That was my class as well. And then some of these things are just new. They used to have a forest here, and that was cut down, and they built new structures. But this place looks probably even worse than what I left in some ways. But then there's some places they've done really well. Like some of these new structures look much better than the dormitories we have. They've built some new classes. There are better shower areas. So they've made a lot of progress. But at the same time, there's still a long ways to go. So anyway, come with me. Let's walk through Kanyawanga. I want you to see the place I left. Anyway, friends, that said, currently, as I said, there's a friend of mine who is in a coma. He or she experienced a significant medical issue. I believe she had a massive stroke. He or she had a massive stroke. And this was a couple months ago. And from the medical perspective, folks are saying she's going to need care for quite some time. Now, from the preacher's side or the spiritual side, people are praying and hoping that it's going to change. Either way, I don't know what's going to happen. Now, I won't share too much about his or her experience because this is a person who's still receiving care, and we want to make sure we are protecting the privacy of the people involved. So the second case that I want to share with you too is of a young man who I never met him when he was still okay. But I remember when I just first moved to California, this young man probably was in his early 20s, had just moved to the US, got his green card, just graduated with a master's degree. Now, from what was reported, this was our dining hall. From what was reported at the time is that this young man was playing with his friends. He may have slipped or something happened. He ended up knocking his head and then ended up in what some medical professionals would describe as a vegetative state. I still remember his mother, an incredibly beautiful young woman who sat by her son every single day. In fact, the mother, I think, lived somewhere in the UK. She traveled over, sat with it, and she had so much faith that the young man was going to recover. It's been years. I don't know what happened, and wherever they are, I honestly hope that things got better. So, friends, these kinds of things happen. By the way, in front of me, these were the dormitory we used to stay in. These things look not too good, as you can tell. There's so much need here. Like I told you, I don't even know where to start. And you'll see my dormitory at the end as we walk with my friend here. So these two examples of medical emergencies just illustrate some of the realities that people who don't live in the US may not know. So I want to walk you through how things evolve. Or he is actually demonstrating how we were. This was the place where we'd be buying our canteen. We'd be buying bread and all that. And this place was a mess. I don't know how much things have changed since then, but yeah, that's where we would be buying bread. So whenever these things happen to people in the US, what I often observe, because I see a lot of these examples, since I've been in the US, I've seen so many of such examples. So when somebody experiences a medical emergency of the sort, they're taken to the hospital, and the Kenyan community often rallies around folks. They will come, they will support, there'll be prayer groups put in place, there's visitations, there's a lot of support in many cases, except for people who are really not connected. So again, folks, in front of me here was my dormitory. We call it Isaiah Wala, and you'll see how it really needs TLC. I spent 4 years in this hall right here. So anyway, so initially when something happens, people rally around and support. They visit and all that. But as time moves on, especially when the patient is one that requires extended care, by the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth month, attention begins to wane and people begin to move on. At some point, this person ends up being alone, or maybe with one or two people still left. I've seen case upon case of that sort. And so the challenge is it's very hard to sustain the support that is required, especially for folks with whom you're not very intimately connected. And this is what happened to the cases that I'm talking about here. And unfortunately, as fewer people pay attention, then some things are going to happen within the hospital. For number one, a lot of neglect begins to happen because in America, for some reason, once the hospital guys discover that nobody's paying attention, they very easily neglect patients. And then at some point, because all American hospitals are almost always focused on maximizing profit, they start administering very unnecessary medical procedures. You see them inserting G tubes for people who don't even need G tubes, or they insert a trach for a person who does not need a trach. So that they start doing that, and part of it is they are putting procedures to maximize the amount of money they can make out of, because all they see is this money. They don't see a patient that needs care. All they see is money. This actually happens to a lot of the patients I've seen in similar circumstances. So by the way, this was our kitchen. Most of the guys working here are completely new, but there's one guy that I think I may have met while I still was in high school called Nelly. You're going to see him. He's just about right here, the guy in front of me. I think he was a cook when I was a student here years ago. He's probably the only guy left. Most of them are already gone or retired. Anyway, folks, so as time begins to progress, then attention shifts and people forget. And then these individuals find themselves in a spot where the hospital is only making as much money as they want and doing all kinds of things. So if you were to ask, how do Kenyan Americans or how do immigrants find themselves in this spot? I'm going to give you a couple of examples that gets us here. Number one of the most common reasons we end up in this spot is isolation. There are so many of us that are really not connected at all within the community. And so in many cases, people who are not connected run into trouble and nobody knows. So by the time people figure out we have a problem, things have progressed so far, it's almost impossible to help them. And then the reality of life in America is that we work like crazy. I know no place on earth where people work like America. And so that intense level of work simply means that a lot of us, our lives revolve around work, home, work, home, work, home. And at some point, it catches up with you. If you're my age or older, you get to a point where your body just can't keep going. You get the signals that you've had enough. Part of the reason we are choosing to come back to Africa. And then there are many, many people in America who either are not insured or don't have proper insurance. And so because of that, we end up really neglecting our health because taking care of your health care becomes really, really expensive. And then when you add to the lifestyle illnesses that we end up acquiring in the process, it's just a powder keg that it's only a matter of time before things explode. Because many of us, like myself, are at very high risk of developing these lifestyle illnesses like diabetes, blood pressure, and obesity-related illnesses. So with that in place, without proper insurance, most of us just choose to go for either alternative medication or just choose to apply what we call the Kenyan attitude to healthcare. So with alternative medication, you'll see people who either go to get prayers or they go and drink maybe a lizard juice from some random osteopathic doctor or some other, maybe Chinese medicine. This is alternative medication. And this is not to say alternative medication is bad. All I'm saying is that there are people who need what I would call quote unquote regular medication. For example, if your A1C is 11 point something and you're still busy drinking some funny drinks from some kind of Chinese medicine, you are simply brewing trouble. If your blood pressure is 220 and all you're doing is taking pain medication and going to bed, you are really, really setting up yourself for massive problems. So yes, alternative medication can be fine, but there are some things you don't want to play with because they will catch up with you. And again, like I said, one of the things that gets us in trouble is our African attitude towards healthcare, where, for example, some of us don't really prioritize things like going for physical assessment or doing regular dental work or just taking pain medication round the clock when you're really not feeling well. At some point, these things catch up with you. I know there are many people who don't go for physical or dental work because they can't afford it. I understand. That's not a problem. But I know many, many people, and a lot of them actually are medics themselves, who have good insurance that pays for their full coverage, but they still will not go for physical care. They will not go to get their teeth done. Oh, I know people who will not even go get their eyes checked when they're literally paying for all of that every single month. So what that simply means is that the day things explode, they explode in such a severe level that it'll be very difficult to rescue you. And then, truth be told, a lot of us still struggle with alcohol. I'm telling you, Kenyans can drink. And many people drink responsibly and they're fine, but there are few people who end up with very, very significant health problems with alcohol, especially when you talk about people who end up with livers that are messed up, kidneys that are messed up, and all the other things that alcohol can do to your body. Those things end up catching with us. And then, of course, at some point, some life events are going to happen that are really beyond our control, like accidents. Or when people get things like cancer and just things that are just going to happen that are really beyond our control. So these are some of the most common things that lead to us getting severe medical emergencies that can lead you to a place that essentially you are not dead, but you are incapacitated. And so, that said, many Kenyans I know actually don't even have power of attorney. And so if something were to happen to you, oftentimes we don't even know who to contact that has the ability to make decisions on your behalf. And even the people who have the power of attorney, many of them don't even know how to support you in the best way possible. So overall, here are some of the suggestions that I'll offer that I hope you think about, especially for those of you all who are not ready to join us in the village. Number one, whatever you do, please stay connected. You don't have to have a million friends out there. You just need a couple of people that you can always rely on. People who, if they don't hear from you for a long time, they'll pick up the phone and ask, hey, are you okay? Or just send you a text and ask, are you okay? That's all you need. Whatever you do, please stay connected so that if something is going on, there's somebody who should know that you're not okay. By the way, the truck you see back there was iconic. There are very few schools that had this kind of a truck. And so that was the school bus that used to shuttle us from one event to another. And we were one of the schools that I think would be counted when you're talking about school buses. Now today these things mean absolutely nothing, but at the time this truck right here was everything for us. Now, besides staying connected, the second thing I ask for, a lot of the problems we deal with have a lot to do with the food we eat. All I ask is, as an individual, find out the kinds of foods that give you trouble and the kinds of food that don't. Like in my case, the only thing I'm doing is I want to maximize eating the things that don't give me trouble and minimize the things that give me trouble. That's all. And these things will vary quite a bit from one individual to another. Like, for example, my wife and I, she'll eat a lot of sweet stuff and has zero problems with blood sugar. For me, even just walking past a donut shop, that raises my A1C. So find out what's good for you and what's not good for you. Make sure you have a designated power of attorney. And please, money is good, but please don't kill yourself looking for money. There's no use in staying dead with a lot of money. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.